Hello again. We're going to do some more knitting. And this is what we're going to knit. I'm calling this Simply Diamonds. Let me put something behind there so you can see. And it's sort of a clunky, large pattern. It's not fine. It's using a 2-row pattern to get these bumps, the purl bumps, to form the diamonds. But it's very nice, and it's relatively easy, and it gives you a block that is, you know, it holds its own. It's pretty good. It's maybe a B, you know. It's not an A+. It's like a B. It's a good block. And what it'll get you doing is repeating rows. It's a 12-row pattern, but some of those rows are the same. So you're going to have to start skipping around a little bit, and that should be fun. So here are the pattern instructions. I don't know. Hopefully that's not going to come out backwards. I'm not sure. If it comes out backwards, then, you know, all the instructions are always in the description box. And as soon as I get my small Afghan done, I'm going to compile all of these instructions in, you know, a little booklet that probably will be for sale on my site, www.wickhamcottage.com. But if you are a viewer, I am going to let you know how you can get it for free. So that'll be good. That'll be something to look forward to. So this pattern, I'll hold it up a little bit. How's that? I'll put it there. So what you will see is row 1, you are working knit 3, and then you are going to purl 2, knit 10, repeat from the asterisks. So just repeat purl 2, knit 10. It doesn't say to the end of the row, it just says repeat it. I could also have put repeat once, you know, or something like that. But we've got 32 stitches on here, so it'll be pretty plain. Once you've repeated it, you're going to find that you've got 5 stitches left. We're going to purl 2, knit 3. Now, this, you'll see it's row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6, row 7, row 8. And then we have row 9, row 10, row 11, row 12. So once you get down to row 8, don't stop. Don't think that you're done, because then you've got to go back. You've got to find row 9, and usually they're sequential. So basically you're evening off your pattern. You know, you've got like your diamond going out, and then it's starting to go back. Instead, I could have written out row 9, row 10, row 11, row 12. But in the, you know, to save space, generally this is how it's done, and I just want you to be familiar with that kind of format because you may see it. So it's a pretty nice pattern. I'll show you where I got it. I was looking through some of my, actually I think I was looking through some files, and I came across this Behr brand knitting primer, or primer, whichever way you like to say it. And this was one of my mother's. Looked through this whole thing, couldn't find a single date, so of course I did what anyone would do. I Googled it, and I found that this was originally published in 1940. But if you'll see this writing right here, the 1940s version had that in cursive. It was slightly different. Everything else appeared to be the same. This print right there was from the 1950s. So I think that my mother either got this in the mid-50s when she was still living at home, or in the late 50s when she had gotten married. And let me show you. Let me show you. It's so let me find the block that we're actually that was that it. Yes, that was it. Number 1. Cool. Yeah, so do you see the difference between the way that the patterns used to be written and the way that they're written now? Much easier to see. Much easier to see. And what you'll find later on is that we use charts now too, and you can have a small little chart, and that's even easier to read and to see, and you know, all in black and white. You can barely see some of these blocks. They're, you know, it's kind of hard to see the patterning, and you know, the booklet is a little, you know, it's showing its age, but really nice blocks. And what I found really interesting is that they're 7-inch blocks. They cast on 32 stitches, 31 stitches. There's one for 35. So they're the same size that we're making them. Actually, I think they were smaller. I think they were like 5.5 inches because they were using pure wool. This Behr brand Fleischer is apparently Behr brand Evermatch Sport and Sweater, moth-proof, washable. So if it's washable, perhaps it was one of the early forms of acrylic. I don't know, but I thought this was fun. And one nice thing when you're looking at anything that's old, something that was in the family. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that because it's in pencil. But my mother had written out the instructions, so they were a little easier for her to understand. And she's got a little tick of, you know, how many times she's repeated something. So that's kind of nice. And then here are some other books. You know, what is old is new again. So, you know, sweaters don't deviate that much, you know. If you learn how to make a basic sweater, you can take it throughout the eras, and, you know, 50s fashion is back in. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought it was really, really cool. And do you see how they're, how it's all sewn together so that there's that dark? That's what I'm going to show you in the next episode, is how to crochet a border around each piece. And what that does is 2 things. It gives a little pop of color. In this case, it's dark. I'm going to use white. So it'll give you a pop of color. It'll separate the blocks a little bit, excuse me. And it's optional. You can just seam the pieces together. That would be fine. You know, whatever works for you. But it's an added touch. I have to say, I'm not a very good crocheter. I've tried several times. I'm told that I hold the crochet hook wrong. I've got a death grip on it. You know, with anything that you're not very good at, you know, I know enough to get by, you know, and that's all I can say. Am I going to make a masterpiece out of crochet? Probably not. Although I would like to start some granny squares. I once made a granny square and I didn't know how to stop. So I just kept going and going and going. I had a big Afghan that was just entirely one big granny square because I didn't know how to stop. So I love some of those Afghans that are crochet on crochet on crochet. They're so beautiful. Will I ever be able to do that? Realistically, I know myself, and if I haven't gotten it by now, I probably never will. But every time I've made a sampler Afghan, I have done a little bit of crochet along the block, and it works out well. So I'm going to teach you that next time. So be sure to come back. But I thought you'd appreciate getting a look at this book. I want to show you some other pattern books because I didn't make all this stuff up. This is not, you know, I sat down and thought I'll design this. We have pattern books, and perhaps one of the most famous gatherer of patterns was Barbara G. Walker. And the way I understand it, she took to an interest and she just delved into it. She wrote, I know, four of these. There were 4 treasuries that she wrote. And when one day she got tired of doing all this knitting stuff, she went on and accomplished something else great. I don't know what she's doing now. Something wonderful. But these are, let's get to some knit and purl kind of things. There's cables. And I hate it when people do this on film. I can see, you guys can't see. Maybe it's at the more at the beginning. Anyway, here's a Pythagorean pattern. How do you like that? Pythagorean pattern. So you've got a little black and white picture, and you've got the instructions. This one did not have charts. And the instructions are fine. Now, see, it is giving you the multiple of 18 stitches plus 1. It's laying it all out just like you're used to seeing. Repeat rows 1 through 24. So this is a good book if you really are interested in knitting. And I mean, you can just follow instructions. You can order patterns through Ravelry or go to a yarn shop and buy patterns and knit out of that. But if you have any hankering for creating your own things, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be a sweater. It can be another Afghan. You can be an Afghan, you know, that's your forte, and just find a pattern that you love and make it big, you know, make panels out of it. I think panels are a good way to go. It's less seaming. And you don't have a whole lot of heavy work in your lap from an entire, the Afghans that I showed, I think it was in my last episode, you know, they get heavy when you've got all of that in your lap. So squares are a good way to go, and panels are a good way to go. I like that. What you also might see is Vogue Knitting. I think this is an older version. I think they've got, you know, a more updated one with a different color cover, but Vogue Knitting is, again, that's another expert in all of this. And what it does is it gives you instructions. You know, if you've, let's see, what page am I on? These are cast-ons. Cable cast-on, alternate cable cast-on. Alternate cable cast-on is basically, you know, how to cast on a knit and a purl at the same time, from what I remember. So it's got instructions. It's got terminology, which is always handy. It's got, I seem to choose the pages that don't have it. Well, here's Fair Isle Knitting, so it'll give you a little history on different types of knitting. And eventually we get to the back where, once again, there's a chart. So that's your first look at a chart. And you've also got the written instructions. What seems to be the most popular is to do written instructions and a chart. And then the knitter can use whichever they desire. With something like this sweater, the chart really is the only way to go. You really couldn't. You could handwrite all the instructions, but it would, you know, would anybody want to sit down and knit it? You know, I don't know. So these books are nice. This Vogue Knitting is an all-in-one history. Here's what you need to know. We're going to show you in illustrated form how to do various things. We're going to give you some patterns to start with, and I think there are some sweaters in here too. I could be mistaken. I haven't looked at this in years, but it's always fun to go back. Oh yes, there are some sweater instructions in here too. It's nice to go back and look at older books that you've loved in the past. You can always find something new. When I first looked through this book, I was a different knitter than I am now. And what that means is that I've learned a lot more about knitting, but I've probably forgotten a lot about knitting too. So some of the techniques and things that I you know, you fall into habits, right? So some of the things that I started out doing, probably I don't do much anymore, and it's good to have that refresher so you're seeing it with new eyes, and that's always fun. Another Stitch dictionary, this was another series. Vogue Knitting Stittionary. This one is on Knit and Purl, which would be great for you starting out doing knits and purls. And I think they've got one on cables, and I think they've got one on edgings, or somebody has one. It's a different size. It's longer, so it kind of stands out amongst the crowd. But and again, these don't have charts. They've just got the instructions, but very nice photographs, so you can see what you're doing and the instructions. So they come in different forms, all these instructions, but they all basically are saying the same thing. Cast on this number of stitches, work in this pattern, and it's always handy to have a picture. So this is your, whoops, where's my piece of paper? This is your pattern for this episode. It's a very nice diamond pattern, isn't it? And it would look cute. You know, again, here I am thinking bigger, but if you did a long panel of this and then a long panel of a different color, the patterns repeat so that they go together well. So if you sew them together, the diamonds will continue. So that might be fun to do diamonds where they, you know, here they are in blue and here they are in yellow, and, you know, lots and lots of ideas for knitting. And you've come a long, long way. Keep it going. Keep it going. And yeah, so print out the instructions if you can. I don't know what they'll look like. I apologize. I hope they're not backwards, but write them on an index card. Again, you know, if you're the index card type of person, it's nice to get those little O-rings, are they called? Punch a hole in the top corner, and you can, you know, have all of your index cards, and they can be all of your blocks, and you can just switch from one card to the next, and you can put a gold star, the ones that came out the best, that are your favorites. And then when you want to do another Afghan, or, you know, any type of knitting, you can write your notes on the back, what you liked about the stitch, what didn't work so well for you, what you would change next time. And that's kind of a fun thing to do too. So have fun, keep it up, keep knitting. I hope you're learning a lot. I think next time we are going to do some more with our blocks. We're going to get them edged. We're going to start edging our blocks, and it's an optional step, but I'm going to show you some real live knitting too. So that'll be fun. Join me again. Come back. You're welcome. You're always welcome to learn to knit. And hopefully you're encompassing, you know, a nice quiet room, soft music going, a fireplace, and we're all just sitting around knitting, and happily so. So thank you, and I'll catch you next time.